are in Paris. I see that you are in a Hard Rock Cafe, a great place in Paris. You did many things since the last album. Perhaps one cheers. Great. One of my first question would be about the last time you played in the Hellfest. It was just before the COVID, 2019. It was the third time you play in Hellfest. What memory do you keep from this show and from the Hellfest and the everything around?
I mean, Hellfest is always a great moment. And it's been fun because I've been to Hellfest obviously 3 times, and every time we go, the festival's bigger, it's better prepared, and like last time we were there was a fucking swimming pool in the VIP area and fountains, and it was an incredible experience, you know. So it's always nice to go there, and I've got a lot of friends in Nantes, and it's always good to catch up with them. But just the general happiness of that festival, you know. There's never any problems. There's no fights. You know, everybody's in a good mood. It's a wonderful moment.
And you have the opportunity to play on the main stage.
Well, yeah. Every time we've played there, we've done the main stage, which is obviously nice. You know, the sound is great. We've got room to move, so it's always a pleasure.
I see also 1 year ago, it was in November, 6 November, you opened for a legend, Glenn Hughes. It was in Élysée Montmartre. How was this experience to play in special guest of Glenn Hughes? How do you leave the show? How do you have the opportunity also to meet him and to speak to him?
Yeah, I mean, it was great, and that was a last minute thing, because I think because the guy that was promoting that show, he's a good friend of ours, and I think the premiere party they cancelled or they had to leave, so he called me up and he was like, "Oh, Lex, do you think you can find a couple of acoustic guitars and play a show this week?" And I was like, "Okay, yeah, no problem," you know. So
yeah.
it was a last minute thing, but obviously it was good fun, you know. I mean, I always enjoy making some noise on the stage and having some beers afterwards and seeing some legends play. You know, it was always good to see Mr. Glenn Hughes fucking, you know, sing like a motherfucker. So it was cool.
Good singer. So perhaps a question about finally what is important for in a rock band. What does the scene represent for you to play on stage? What does it represent for you?
Well, for me, I think it's the other part of music, you know. Like, I mean, when you record an album, you write things in a particular way, you use recording techniques, and it's the creation of a particular vibe, recording. But then when you play live, it's the other side of the coin, you know, and it's an important part as well. So it's always fun to play live, to try and recreate what you've put down on record, you know. And sometimes it's a close approximation, sometimes it's completely different, but you know, it's always good. It's a living and breathing animal, the live show, whereas when you're recording, it's a bit more static, you know, a bit more scientific and whatnot. So I mean, I prefer playing live. Recording albums is merely a kind of a vehicle to put yourself on the stage and actually have a good time, you know.
So finally, you come back with this new album, long overdue. The last time it was Rolling, it was 5 years ago. How was it? Finally? How did you work this time on the writing of these 12 tracks?
Well, that was COVID, man. So, you know, I've been busy living life, you know, like, obviously I live in France, I bought a house, my life is here. So, COVID happened and I wasn't working. So I had time to relearn how to play guitar. I had time to fucking eat too much food and get fat. And, you know, like, wrote this record during COVID and then slowly, you know, finished recording it and everything else. So, for this next record, it's a bit different to the other KORITNI tracks because I'm actually playing guitars, and for the next live concerts, I'll be playing guitar and singing. So KORITNI is now a 4-piece, And so yeah, it's something a bit different, but you know, I think it should be good.
Yeah, the album is great. Really, a great song too. But yeah, you play now guitar. What does it change finally for you to play guitar on an album? And you will play, I suppose, on stage.
Well,
I suppose it was a little different.
well, I mean, I've always played guitar. Like in terms of all of the other KORITNI albums, I mean, I've always written a lot of the guitar parts. I've written a lot of the solos. So it doesn't change much for the music. It just means that, you know, for the live gig, I don't have to just carry a microphone anymore. I probably have to move my own fucking amp. So, you know, that's a bit shit. But no, it'll you know, like, yeah, I can no longer be the precious singer. You know, like I pick up my mic, I'll go, look, I've carried this in, and that's my job. So no, I've got guitars to carry and amps to move, and it's going to give a different flavor. You know, like it's obviously I've always played guitar, so I think it'll be fun for people to see as well. The fact that I don't just write the shit, I can actually play. You know.
Do you write a lot of tracks for this album, and you did a selection?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I had about maybe 15, 16 tracks, and the tracks that didn't go on the album, it's not necessarily because they weren't good enough. It's we just picked like the best mix, and we picked the best songs that work together. So the other songs that I wrote, they're not necessarily lost. They might arrive on the next record, or we might play them live, or who knows, you know. But once a song's written, it's there, you know. So you can't get rid of it. So people might hear it at some stage.
So I see that the band changed a little. There are new guys who arrive in the band. There is Tom Fremont,
Yeah.
a French guy, I suppose. What does it bring finally to you musically in the band? I suppose it's different.
Yeah, I think it's a little different. I mean, we're still playing the same songs, the same music, but I think it's a subtle difference, you know. I mean, like I don't think it changes a huge amount of things. It's a bit like, you know, if you're cooking food and, you know, your favorite mark of flour isn't available and you change to another flour, it's still going to end up with the same cake, you know. So but I mean, he's been a good friend of mine for years, and actually Eddie Santa Cruz actually suggested him. So when Eddie couldn't do the tour, he's like, "Oi, why don't you fucking look up this guy Tom Fremont?" I'm like, "Yeah, I know him. He's a friend of mine." He's like, "Well, he'd be perfect." So, so you know, like, yeah. So we've got him. It was the same thing for the drums. You know, like we got Dan playing drums for us now. And basically, it's because Chris Brown, he's busy living his life in Australia. He's got a wonderful daughter, and he can't find the time to come over to France and play gigs. So you know, you change musicians when you have to. You know.
Do you have finally the opportunity to come back in Australia sometimes, or no? You stay in French because you are very good in French. I know.
No, the last time I went back to Australia, I think, was about seven years ago. And the country's changed a lot. It's not what I remember it used to be, and it's fucking so far away. Tickets are expensive, and you know you can't buy any good camembert. So I prefer to stay here.
Yes. When you came in France a long time ago now. Australia is very reputed like one of the country of rock. It's not the same thing in France. How do you feel that in France? Do you have the impression that in France we are rock and roll is very different? I mean, when we think about Australia, it's AC/DC, Angel City, all these bands, Jimmy Barnes, and it's a rock country. In France, it's not the same culture. How do you feel about that?
See, I disagree. Like, yes, the reputation is Australia as a rock country and France is, a country of soft cheeses. But it's not true. I mean, I think in France you have more live venues, you've got more gigs, you've got more opportunity to see live music than you do in Australia. In Australia, in the last 20 years, 30 years, venues have been closing down because the neighbours complain about the sound, because the local city government is pissed off that, the concert goers, when they leave, they fucking vomit in the street or they piss on the fucking cars. There's not that much live music in Australia. And also growing up there, you don't have a great opportunity to see bands because it's so fucking far away. It costs so much money to get there. Bands don't come. So the only bands that do come are stadium fillers, like AC/DC or like Guns N' Roses. And you pay, $120 a ticket and that's it. You don't see those mid-level bands. Even for me, incredible bands, I don't know, like Mr. Big or Extreme, or they never toured in Australia because it's too far away. And you get to Australia, you spend all the money getting there, and you play three concerts, and then you fuck off. So I've seen more live music in Europe than I ever saw growing up in Australia. So I actually feel that France is a rock and roll country. I feel like you've got some huge festivals, you've got a great attitude for live music, and a great support network. So yeah, I disagree with that statement.
I see that the last 4 or 5 years, you don't do many shows. I remember before you play a lot of gigs. You did some tour in France, in Europe. You play some lot of gigs. Is it what is the idea that you want to finally to do less show but very good with a great opportunity, or is there another reason?
It was basically, I think you'll be seeing more KORITNI gigs in the future than you have in the past, because now that we've got a new lineup, we've got, like Tom Fremont, who lives in Paris. Daniel is the drummer. He's just in Turin in Italy. So, it's a few hours away on the train. So the fact that everybody's here now, it's easier to organize gigs. Because, yeah, in the last 5 years or so, it was difficult because, Eddie's busy doing his thing in Australia. Chris is doing this. Luke's he was in Japan for a while. So it was difficult to actually organize the time to get everybody in the same place for playing shows. And that's one of the other reasons for changing the KORITNI lineup, is so we can actually play some more music and bring the music to the fans,
Mm-hmm. It was how was it finally this time to the recording of the album? You have always this sound. I will say perhaps this KORITNI sound that you get since a long time with the album. But how was it? Does it change? Do you change something in the way of recording, or do you work like you did all the time?
Well, no. I mean, every album has been recorded in a different place. Most of this album was recorded in my bedroom, and when you record, I mean, because it's me who writes, I'm doing the producing, so I know the sound that I want, and you just need to take time to actually find that sound, So whether that's hanging fucking pillows on the windows, or using different microphones to what you normally would use, you find a way to make it sound how you want. And but yeah, you're right. I mean, we normally have the same type of sound, even if we record in different studios or different environments. But yeah, it's I don't think our sound is going to change. That's how I produce, and that's the sound I like. So if you don't like it, you can fuck off. If you like it, well, lucky you,
Do you think that finally it's the sound also a part of the sound is Kevin Shirley. You work with him since a long time. How do you work each time? Is it different, or is it always the same thing? You give your music and he do the mixing.
Yeah, it's basically, yeah, I finish the record, I give him the mixes, and he goes to work, he's a producer himself. So the music is like a map. He knows the destination and he knows how to get there, and he listens to the track and he just starts mixing and gets it done. Obviously, you know, there's a bit of back and forth. He'll send a rough mix. I'll have a discussion with him. I'm like, look, this sounds great. This could be better. But he's easy to work with, and he's a fucking legend, obviously. So yeah, no, there's nothing complicated there, man. You know.
So the album is called Long Overdue. Is it also the first single of the album? You choose this track. Is it important for you to present the new album with this track, Long Overdue?
You know what? Like I didn't really choose the track. I kind of just asked. I asked people who have listened to the record, so the label, my manager, my friends. I said to them, you know, like Francis Zegut fucking had a listen, and he's like, I like these tracks. And because for me, I mean, I spent 2 years writing and recording this record. I'm too close to it. So, you know, like I love every song, and I fucking hate every song because I've heard it too many times. So yeah, I left that decision to other people actually, because I think I'm way too proche. I'm too close to the music to make a decision like that.
I see some years ago you opened for Phil Rudd. I know that you are a great fan of AC/DC, of course. When I listen the two string, the two first songs, no string attached, I think immediately to AC/DC.
Oh really? Okay.
How was it to meet the great Phil Rudd?
That was interesting. That was fun. You know. Obviously, yeah, when you meet a legend like that, it's fantastic. And, you know, I mean, he's a down-to-earth, 2 feet on the ground type of guy. So it was nice to have a chat with him and chill out, you know. It was cool. But it's funny you mentioned No Strings being like AC/DC. I always thought it was a bit of a Mr. Big imitation.
So, but when you meet a guy like Phil Rudd, do you have in your head some questions that you want you will really ask to him as perhaps as a fan, because we're always fan of music, you know?
Not really, you know, because personally for me, music is its own magic. And I don't really care about the human that creates it, you know, like the music is the magic itself. So yeah, I don't really, when I meet someone like that, it's not like, oh, you know, how did you get this kick drum sound, or like, how did you come up with this groove, you know? Because personally, I find it a bit weird or a bit invasive. And I'm like, I love your music. Let's leave it at that. I prefer to ask him how his day going, or if he wants a beer, or, you know, yeah, no, I don't tend to have those types of questions, you know. Like, I think one of I mean, obviously, when you've like been touring and whatnot, you know, like there's some things you can talk about with other musicians. And my favorite question all the time is like, what's the worst gig you've ever done? Because people say, no, but it's true. Like people say, like, what's the best gig? And it's like, well, I've done lots of good gigs, so whatever. But you always remember the worst gig. You always remember when there was a fuck up. You know, you always remember when the guitarist fucking, you know, like lost his fucking luggage, or, you know, like that's those Spinal Tap moments are actually the things that you remember best when you're a touring musician. You don't tend to remember the best gigs, because a good gig, everything goes to plan. So that's normal. That's what you plan, and that's how it should be. When things fuck up, that's what you remember. Yeah.
Yes. It was so you live in France for many years now. You are like a French guy, you know. Do you speak a little French?
Bah, bien sûr.
Ah, good.
Non, parce qu'en fait, c'est toi qui as commencé l'interview en anglais. Donc, je continue en anglais, mais oui, je parle français.
Ah, ok. Peut-être qu'on peut finir en français, alors.
Bah, si tu veux, oui.
Ouais, comme tu veux. Donc, j'avais envie de te demander par rapport à, justement, qu'est-ce que tu apprécies en France? Vraiment, qu'est-ce qui te plaît dans la France? Qu'est-ce qui t'a autant attiré? Finalement, tu n'as plus qu'à demander la carte d'identité française et you are French.
Pas encore, mais j'ai une titre de séjour.
Ah, d'accord.
Mais en fait, je crois que j'ai le droit pour prendre un passeport cette année, en fait.
Et
Mais
qu'est-ce que tu aimes en France?
en France, évidemment, la nourriture. Ma femme, la première chose. J'adore faire du ski. En fait, juste la semaine dernière, j'étais dans les Alpes. Donc, j'ai fait ça chaque année. Il y a tout. J'adore tout le personnage dans les pays. Hein. Tous les Français et les Françaises. Il est adorable. Il est facile à parler avec. La vie ici, c'est un plaisir et c'est simple. C'est bien. C'est les petits plaisirs dans le jour. Le petit fromage ou un verre de vin ou juste une petite discussion avec le boulanger. C'est tellement chouette ici, la vie.
Est-ce que tu te souviens, toi qui aimes tant la France, quelles ont été tes premières découvertes musicales? Tes premières influences, tes premières idoles quand tu vivais en Australie. Est-ce que tu te rappelles de ça? Quel a été vraiment les premiers instants où tu as su que cette musique, c'était pour toi?
Mon premier idole, je pense, c'était Little Richard. Et après ça, parce qu'en fait, mon père, il était un musicien aussi, donc il donnait moi tous les vieux trucs comme ça. Little Richard, Aretha Franklin, Otis Redding, Wilson Pickett. Donc, j'ai grandi avec ça. Mais le premier artiste personnel, juste pour moi, c'était Bon Jovi.
Bon Jovi, yeah.
Ouais. Et moi, j'ai gardé tous mes monnaies de Noël et j'ai acheté le disque Blaze of Glory. En cassette. Donc, c'était mon premier achat juste pour moi.
D'accord. Et c'est ça qui t'a finalement donné le virus?
Je pense musique, c'était dans mes veines déjà hein, mais bah oui.
Est-ce que tu te souviens du premier concert que tu as donné? En Australie, je suppose.
Moi, le premier concert, moi j'ai donné?
Oui.
Non. Non, parce qu'en fait, j'ai fait la performance toute ma vie. Hein. Je pense que mon premier concert, c'était quand j'étais 5 ans ou quelque chose. Hein. Donc, oui, je ne me souvenais pas ça, mais j'ai regardé la vidéo. Mais mes parents, il y a beaucoup de vidéos de ça, mais je n'ai pas souvenir, non.
Alors, une autre petite question à propos de l'Australie aussi, de cet album. Déjà, au niveau des textes, about the lyrics in this album, what is important, qu'est-ce qui est important pour toi les choses, les textes, qu'est-ce que tu as envie d'exprimer à travers tes textes, en fait?
Je ne sais pas. Hein. Je ne suis pas un poète, je ne suis pas un politicien. Normalement, tous mes textes, j'aime bien quand il y a le petit jeu de mots ou les choses dedans. Et en plus, tous les textes, c'est le truc de ma vie. Hein. Donc, malheureusement, ma vie, c'est pas tellement intéressé. Hein. C'est que des alcools, de sexe et les petits plaisirs dans la vie. Mais en fait, il y a une morceau sur l'album Bone for You. Donc, j'ai écrit ça pour mes petits chiens. J'ai un petit Staffordshire, un petit Staffy. Donc, ça c'est différent que d'habitude. Mais normalement, c'est le parole de bullshit rock'n'roll. Hein. C'est pas tellement spécial. C'est un petit peu comme un album de AC/DC. Tu n'as jamais demandé alors, qu'est-ce que tu crois politiquement pour ça? Like, c'est AC/DC. Hein. C'est pas important.
Est-ce que comment s'est passée ta jeunesse en Australie? Quels souvenirs tu gardes de tes premières années, de ton adolescence, de tes amis, quand tu étais en Australie?
J'étais un ado normal dans les paysages en Australie. Hein. J'ai fait beaucoup de conneries. J'ai bois, je fume, j'ai fait la fête. J'ai écrasé mes voitures 3-4 fois. En fait, on était une joue avec mes potes. Donc, moi et 4-5 potes de moi. On rassemble toute notre monnaie. Donc, c'était lefty money. C'est peut-être en total 800 balles. On achetait une voiture de merde. Après, on arrive dans la forêt et on fait le rallycross tout seul. jusque tu écrasais la voiture et tu laissais là dans la forêt et tu marchais juste sur la maison. Donc, on fait toutes les choses typiques de jeunes Australiens comme ça. Donc,
D'accord, c'était très rock'n'roll.
Oui, j'ai fait beaucoup de bêtises. Ouais. ça, c'est vrai.
Qu'est-ce que tu dirais à quelqu'un qui va découvrir l'album, qui par exemple va écouter Long Overdue? Qu'est-ce que tu lui dirais pour présenter le groupe, pour présenter ce nouvel album, qui est bon, je pense que c'est très important pour toi aussi, un nouvel album.
Non, mais, en fait, prends une bière, monte le volume et c'est tout. Hein. Et juste écoute. Je pense l'album, il présente tout seul. Hein. Si tu écoutes la musique, tu comprends le style et l'idée.
Voilà. I think it's a good conclusion.
Ah ouais.